Brought to you by Pfizer.
In this video, you're going to see the future.
U.S. Treasury is higher.
Breaking news. We've got a livestock there.
Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Thanks for joining me for Stay Free with Russell Brand and showing that as the world descends into chaos, we may elevate by accessing the light within. Ultimately, there is a powerful light within us that will allow us to transcend their narratives, that will allow us to flee their hell and find high ground together. In His holy name I praise. If you're watching us on Rumble, hello guys, Jenna131, give 'em hell, Russell. RM McGum, here we go. Love you, Russell. You could become an Awakened Wonder, of course. Press the red button and join our community there. You get to direct the show. You would have already seen me and Alex Jones. By Jove, what a conversation. What would you have anticipated? And indeed, what did we deliver? I see Alex Jones, and tell me if you agree with this, as a kind of evangelical preacher, a shaman figure on the edgelands who moves between mystical proclamations, things that sound insane. But when you regard him in that light as a sort of a shamanic figure, it's a lens that I find helpful. Also, let's face it, a lot of things he was saying a long, long time ago have come to pass. Let me know what you think about him. He's a prophet for sure, says Firegirl 2020 on the chat. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff today. We're going to talk, of course, about the Republican primaries and who won. We did a poll, of course. Who did you think won last night's debate? 32% of you, Vivek Ramaswamy. 4%, Nikki Haley. But 64% of you said Donald Trump won. How does this man win a debate without even intending? Michael Joel 12, my nipples are cutting through my shirt. Stay on topic in the chat. Stay on topic in the chat, yo. If we are going to create some sort of unified global revolutionary movement where we transcend our cultural identities so that we can live in a unified, decentralized world and depose these globalist establishment elites who are trying to destroy us, then we're going to have to keep it together. Pretty clear that I've been talking to Alex Jones for a minute, isn't it? On the basis of that. So let's have a look at the first piece of evidence of Trump's victory at the primaries. Was that on Rumble? Was that allowed to be on Rumble? It was on Rumble. Did they advertise it was on Rumble, or did they send you to a paywalled place? Not on Google, baby. You got to watch out. If you're one of our Awakened Wonders watching this, first part of the show will be available for you on YouTube. Then, following free speech like it's a mystical Musk. I don't mean Elon, although Elon's great too. Like a fine scent in the air, we will go to the highland. We will climb the mountain together. There, the eagle will deposit us in the great heights where we will be free from the flood, from the deluge, from the chaos that's falling down even now. Let's have a look at how that Republican debate went. Remember, if you're watching us on YouTube now, click the link in the description. After 15 minutes, we'll be on Rumble, and we'll be talking about our Zelensky story there. Is he the last man standing in a sort of solo Truman Show war where even the Biden administration admitting this thing cannot be won? Or, as anyone with an iota of common sense might say, you can't win wars against Russia. They're a nuclear superpower. They've spent their whole history having and winning wars. Don't start wars with them. Now, I know the Ukrainian people are powerful. By God, I know it. I know Ukrainian people. But when you're in the pincers of the establishment agenda, my God, God help us all. Let's have a look at how that Republican debate went, and let us know what you want to see us discussing later in the show, because we make the show, obviously, in conjunction with you. That's the whole point in free speech, so you can speak freely. First up, I want to see this craziness where they started. This is great. If you've seen this already, let me know in the chat. They're chanting for Trump, and then like one of the moderators, I think, has to go, listen, you're actually spoiling this for everyone else. These people are trying their best.
Okay, so that was awesome, you guys, but that's the last time we're going to do that, right? Because we really, really, really want to hear from these candidates, and they worked really hard for us tonight, okay? So we're so
This is democracy. Democracy's school. That's what it is, isn't it? Now listen, these are some of the best candidates the Republican Party has got. Give them respect. Donald Trump, he's somewhere with Roseanne Barr doing all his crazy Donald Trump stuff. At least support the people that are here. What do you think of Vivek? Vivek's been on our show. I like Vivek. I think Vivek is an important voice for the future. Also, what I like about Vivek is he shows you that you can bypass the legacy media and you can become politically relevant on alternative independent media. Independent media that is being destroyed. Why? Because they don't want you thinking freely. The terrain of your consciousness is being colonized even now by the establishment. You know what I mean by that. Legacy media, the government, global corporations operating in conjunction to deny you your individual freedom. How do they do that? They fill your mind with nonsense and they separate you from your brethren, from your brothers and sisters around the world with whom you have more in common than all of those people that seek to govern. Let's have a look at Roseanne Barr telling you what the problem truly is. It's the deep state.
Shit, but I want to say right now, aren't we all tired of the deep state bullshit?
I mean, that's a T-shirt, that's a meme, that's something I want tattooed on the inside of my eyelids. Roseanne is back. She's wearing a hell of a hat, and she's coming up with some pretty good catchphrases. Deep state bull. We're still on YouTube, though. We're still on YouTube.
I can't hear you. I want you to say it louder. Aren't we all fed up with the deep state bullshit?
I'll tell you what, it's a good vibe at a Trump rally, isn't it? It's a good vibe. And I'll tell you who's jealous of that vibe, Hillary Clinton. We'll be talking about that a little later. Guess who Hillary Clinton is comparing Trump to? Put your answers in the chat. Do you think she's comparing him to our Lord and Saviour JC? Do you think she's comparing him to a little guy that got very popular in the 1930s who had some pretty nasty ideas, if you ask me? Let me know in the chat. 1 for JC, 2 for that badass dictator. I don't mean badass in a positive way. Yeah, that's right. That's what she said. You've got it. She compares him to Hitler. Yep, that's right. Is John Lydon on Rumble? Do any of you feel you've been cheated? Let's see what the rest of what Roseanne's saying. Oh my God, it's amazing. I tell you what, this is an interesting moment we're living in globally, whether it's the geopolitical crises unfolding all around the world, or whether it's the fact that there ain't going to never be another democratic election in your country where the losers say it was corrupt. Is that possible? It's not possible, is it? It's over. It's over. This is it. It's time to decentralize. Now, Vivek, let's go. You know, I know. What do you lot think about Vivek? Because a lot of these new, I'd call them independent media imperateurs, are on the rise and on the move. This chat is too rapid for anything to be viewed by Russell. I'm viewing it. I'm watching it. I'm watching you over there in the. Oh, that's funny, Brian TWM. Like, you just put a word on the a Y on the end of the word Hitler, and I think we all know who he's referring to there. We've got a little story about that particular person, if I'm right. That's good that you all say that. That's my favourite thing I've spotted in the chat since the WEF's logo looks like 666. Someone post that in the chat for us. That's fantastic. All right, let's have a look at Vivek, because these new independent political figures, and I pray to God we see more of them, whether you agree with them or not, because some of you maybe think that Vivek is. I feel like I've seen people say, Soros, Vivek is Obama 2.0. I don't know. Are you just saying that because he's charismatic and not white? What are you talking about there? I don't know. Why do you think that he's like Obama? Because we met him, and I feel like he's a sincere dude. Like, you don't have to agree with everybody. You don't have to, but you do have to love everyone. Okay, so, Vivek's on the rise. RFK's on the rise. I know some of you people think RFK's not the answer because of his stance on Israel. But, I mean, look, unless people that are not directly involved in the ideological and religious components of these conflicts start to pray for peace, start to pray for a new system for all of us. Decentralization. Decentralized but unified. I don't know where we're going to go. Let's see how Vivek done on that stage.
The former president.
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here, and I am upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It was a cancer in the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight.
Pretty good communicator, I would say. Pretty good orator. Like, look, maybe the era where you can just sort of trot out Jeb Bush, low energy Jeb or whatever, maybe that's over. Maybe even the Democrat Party will have to learn that you can't just go, Hillary, Joe Biden. Maybe they're going to have to accept, look at this now. With RFK doing how he's doing in the polls, would the Dems have been better to have gone, RFK, get RFK in. There's a movement behind him. And as soon as the establishment don't like someone, you know what I think? Aha! That's what opened my mind to the Trump potentialities. Whatever you think about Donald Trump, there's some pretty powerful interests that do not want that man in the White House. Let's see. Let me know if you think, one, if Vivek is for real. Two, if you think he's an establishment puppet.
You want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign. I will turn over.
Right, who pressed 3? 3 wasn't an option.
I yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there are cheering for losing in the Republican Party. Think about who's moderating this debate. This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership.
The scheduling would be tricky.
Asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about and bringing more people into our party. You think the Democrats, and we've got Kristen Welker here, do you think the Democrats would actually hire Greg?
There's a lot of anti-establishment feeling in that room. I mean, they're actually against the whole concept of the debate, aren't they? They're chanting Trump, Trump, Trump in the debate. There's so little trust in the legacy media. There's so little trust in the establishment. People are sensing now we're approaching the end game. We're at some peripheral time. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments. If you're not subscribing on Rumble yet, subscribe right now. It helps us. It helps us if you like our content and subscribe and become an Awake and Wonder if you want to. You get all sorts of extra stuff, including early looks at Alex Jones. You could have joined us live for that. I'm still reeling from it. People think I've had coffee in the chat. No. I've just had a conversation with Alex Jones. Let's have a look at what Vivek said about, what did he say about Nikki Haley? Keep watching this, but he says it here.
Gutfeld to host a Democratic debate. They wouldn't do it. And so the fact of the matter is, Kristen, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you...
Oh, corrupt Russia collusion hoax. It was paid for by Hillary and her folks. We see the Steele dossier. What a lot of dossier. Seems the sort of thing you should toss away and ignore.
You pushed on this network for years. Was that real or was that Hillary Clinton made up disinformation? Answer the question. Go.
Mr. Ross.
Sorry. This is how we get our country back. We need accountability.
The primary, it's school. It's actual school. Should we have a look at Nikki Haley calling Vivek Ramaswamy scum because of TikTok? He started bringing up TikTok. I guess you're not meant to be on TikTok, right?
How do you get TikTok banned if you use it?
Well, I want to laugh at why Nikki Haley didn't answer your question, which was about looking at families in the eye. In the last debate, she made fun of me for actually joining TikTok while her own daughter was actually using the app for a long time. So you might want to take care of your family first.
Leave my daughter out of your voice.
Your adult daughter.
Oh, no, it's getting a bit Will Smith at the Oscars. Leave my daughters. Keep my daughters now. Oh, my God.
The next generation of Americans are using it. And that's actually the point. You have her supporters propping her up. That's fine.
I'm going to just say this. I know you're enjoying it. I'm enjoying it too. It's a great deal of fun. There's 15,000 of us right now enjoying this live on Rumble. When we get to 20,000, by God, are we going to give you some treats? By Jove, shall I? But this is like the process of running a really, like this is leading towards, presumably, or do you think the whole thing is kind of circus and theatre, the candidacy for the Republican Party? Now, that means potentially that one of these people become president of the United States. Do you think this is the right energy? Does it feel to you with, potential war with China, Middle Eastern escalation, all of that stuff, like that really, shouldn't it be sort of like, okay, now listen, what are we going to do? It should be quite sober, shouldn't it? Should it? I don't know. Or do we live in like just sort of WrestleMania politics now? Is that what we want? Is that what we want? It can't work. Yeah, I tell you what it is. What I say it's a show. Katie Beth in our chat over there in Awake and Wonder there, she says it's a chat. Leach says, Vivek, for a youngster, Viv is okay. Yeah, I don't know. The idea of a president being younger than me, I'm not ready for that yet. I mean, while I complain about, like Joe Biden, that's pushing it. That dear old fella almost from another realm, that old coughing, cheating old sod. But no, bless him, bless them all children of God, aren't we? That's the way we've got to look at it. Hold on, I want to see the rest of this TikTok stuff.
The truth. You're just the easy answer is actually to say that we're just going to ban one app.
You're a scum.
We got to go further.
We got to ban all apps. Is that what he's going to say? I like Vivek. I think he got energy, got a lot of energy. So, okay, what was I want to talk to you about now? Oh, Tim Scott, more war. War, what is it good for? Well, answer in the chat. What is war good for?
In order for us to have the military to fight 3 different continents at the exact same time.
Well, hold on. Yeah, but is that a good idea?
We're going to have to invest heavily in our military, but we're also going to have to invest.
Well done, son. That's good stuff.
Heavily in an industrial base so that we can hit our objectives from a military perspective. Not only with.
It doesn't sound actually like he believes that to me. Like, he's just like, right, this is what you do in these presidential debates. You get out there and advocate for war. Okay.
Our ships, but also with our plane.
Ron DeSantis, he was echoing possible Trump talking points. Did you see this? I think Trump said at his Roseanne rally some stuff about, what was it? Visas. And then dear Ron DeSantis, who's been on this show, governor of Florida. Florida could come very significant to us. So I want to keep Ron on side. Ron, you're doing a good job.
I was the first presidential candidate to say, if you are here on a student visa as a foreign national, you're making common cause with Hamas, I'm canceling your visa and I'm sending you home. No questions asked.
I will also quickly cancel the student visas of all Hamas sympathizers on college campuses.
Well, there you go. I don't know. So he was doing a lot of dancing, I think, Trump. I'm pretty interested in seeing that. Did you see this already? Like, Trump's dancing. Is this one of the things you love most about Donald Trump? You guys, let's have a look. I've not seen this yet. There you go, something to smile about, because we've got a couple of stories that we could potentially bring you now. One is the Gates Foundation and the EU, that's the sort of bureaucratic body that governs Europe, are pushing for digital ID. Do you want to see that story? I think it's someone being questioned about it by that Dutch. Is it by that Dutch dude, Rob Roos is going, Rob Roos, if you've heard of him before, it was when he once spoke to a Pfizer exec and said, did you clinically trial these for transmission? And the answer was pretty interesting. Do you want to see that? So the EU and the Gates Foundation are pushing for digital ID. Press 1 if you want that. Or vaccine maker AstraZeneca are being sued for being defective. Press 2. We'll go with whatever you guys want, as a matter of fact. Meanwhile, guess who went back to their hometown for a little look around? It was President Joe Biden. It's Joe Biden. Did you guys know this? It's Joe Biden from Scranton, where the office is from. Well, obviously the original office is from Slough. But your American office with Rainn Wilson and all that, a lot of you are pressing 1. Yeah, this is take your shirt off. It's not that kind of a show. I won't do that. I'm saying a lot of 1s, getting a lot of 2s. Where can I see Joe Biden revisit Scranton? It's not loaded in yet. Okay, so listen. So let's go. I think, which one is winning, Gal? 1 or 2? 1. All right, does that mean we're off YouTube? We've got to leave YouTube for that? Okay, guys, listen. There's 17,000 of you, or 16,999. Look at the chat right now. I love that. We're right on the edge. Although I do freak out if it's ever 666. You know me, I'm superstitious about stuff like that. Right. If you're watching us on YouTube, I need you to click the link in the description right now to join us on Rumble, because we're going to show this moment where a Dutch MEP says that, he's revealing some stuff about the social IDs. You're going to love it. So, if you're watching us on YouTube, click the link in the description. Join us over there. Goodbye, YouTube. Okay, if you're watching us on Rumble, become an Awakened Wonder. Press the red button. Join the chat. It's absolutely fantastic in there. You'll be with the likes of Jack Swiss and Lorraine. A lot of people are talking about nipples. Why is that being talked about? What's happened there? There's a clip. No, we're clear. Why are people talking about nipples, though? You don't know that? No. Okay, well, something's going on. Something's going on. Why are you all talking about nipples in the chat? What's going on? We love nipples. Simple as that. It's as simple as that. They want to distract you and it's working. It's your nipples, Russell. What's going on with my nipples? They're absolutely... Hold on. No. Well, it is coming up to Christmas. Is this Joe Biden at Scranton, or is this... Rob Roos. Okay, let's have a look at Rob Roos saying that we're all going to have to carry digital ID, and I'm not showing you my nipple. Maybe if we get to 20,000, we're on 17,181. I'll show you the nipples at 20,000, all right?
I just left the room where we had the negotiations about the digital identity, and I have bad news. The member states and the European Parliament came to an agreement. That means that probably not far from now, the digital identity will be a fact in the European Union.
Press 1 if you think that's going to happen. Press 2 if you think we can resist digital ID.
Right after this agreement, Commissioner Breton said, now we have the digital identity wallet, we have to put something in it. And what he meant was the digital euro, also known as the central bank digital currency.
Uh-oh, CBDCs. Do you remember when all they said about Bitcoin is it's bad for the environment? Do you remember that? That's all they said. You cannot have Bitcoin. It is so bad for the environment. You know what I love? Environment. That is why you cannot have cryptocurrencies. Well, now that they've worked out how to control cryptocurrencies, look, it would be irresponsible of us not to have cryptocurrencies. We are going to mandate them. Of course, that's what's happening. Is it true that Canadian truckers are still in jail? Can we find out about that? That's always worrying me.
And this is a very bad development. They always promise us not to make this connection. And even a lot of experts, privacy experts and security experts, warned also last week this is a very bad idea for our privacy and our freedom. And still, this digital identity is pushed through. But it's not too late, because we still have to vote on this in the plenary. So what you can do, send your MEP from your member state an email and tell him or tell her that you are against this tool.
Pretty good. Someone in the chat saying, good to see Peter Schmeichel getting involved. If you know anything about British football, and in particular that Danish goalkeeper, you will know. Could be Peter, could be Kasper, could be any of the Schmeichels, really, couldn't it, mate? So there you go. Whether it's CBDCs or the WEF saying they would want the ability to censor content that criticise their measures in the event of another pandemic. There's your kiss, G199090 on the Rumble chat. There are all manner of global legislature being put forward. And even when it happens at the level of our nation, like the censorship bills in Canada, here in our country, the UK, in the EU, in Ireland, it's clear that there is an agenda. You guys know that, right? Press Y and let me know why, yes, in the chat if you agree with me. No, if you disagree. Now, look. Oh, guys, the V-neck. Oh, yeah, that's why. You're talking about the V-neck I wore yesterday. That's what the problem is. That's from Glacier Fox, Chief 411. Vivek was off the hook last night. Primal Colin likes him. People talking about our Alex Jones chat, which you can see early if you become, yeah. You're saying yes. And I don't even remember what the question was, is the simple truth. I've moved through so many dimensions of consciousness in the last few minutes. Watch the video where Ursula is duped about, find that. Can you, listen, because after this, we're going to do some of your stories. I just saw guys in the gallery. I just saw someone asking about that Ursula EU executive figure that was doing them deals. Yeah? Hello, someone's got a link of me and Alex Jones live already. People screen grab that stuff. They're posting it. It's crazy here, right? So, listen. You know how the legacy media have presented Zelensky entirely as a sort of a hero. You know Zelensky used to be an actor and an entertainer. You know how there's been a lot of popular oratory and celebrification of Zelensky. You know, like when Sean Penn gave him that Oscar. I'm sure Sean Penn's acting in good faith. You know, when they bought him out of the Golden Globes. You know all that sort of stuff? Well, now, even Zelensky's inner circle are saying, like, it don't look likely that we can win a war against Russia, because Russia is Russia. That's why you can't win wars against Russia. When are you going to learn that lesson? The lesson Napoleon learned, the lesson Hitler learned, the lesson that we're all going to learn now. You don't just roll into Russia and go, do this, do that. They're serious people over there. Not that the Ukrainian people aren't. So now it seems like Zelensky, even though he's on the front of Time magazine, or I think at least he was last week, it seems that he's in a kind of Truman world zone now, where the people around him are going, oh, yeah, it's all cool, but the funding might be about to stop. He's been reduced to kind of begging for money on the news. This is one of the things that shows you that the geopolitical globalist agenda is kind of a spectacle, a simulacrum. Press Y if you know it's like a simulacrum. Press N if you believe in this stuff. Thanks for that recent spiritual awakening post there in the Rumble chat. I just saw that. I missed your name, but thanks for the donation. We give it to good causes. All right. Have you seen the piano? Have you seen the video of Zelensky playing the piano with his penis? Yeah, it's in this, actually. You'll see that in a moment. Here's the news. No, here's the effing news. Tell us what stories you want after, guys.
No, here's the fucking news.
Volodymyr Zelensky has appeared on the cover of Time magazine, but privately his inner circle know that Ukraine cannot win a war against Russia. The Biden administration know that Ukraine cannot win against Russia. Is Volodymyr Zelensky the only person in the world who doesn't know you can't win a war against Russia? As you apply celebrity to the world of politics, you find yourself in peculiar situations. From the beginning of this conflict, there was a drive to turn Volodymyr Zelensky into a kind of celebrity, with him turning up at the Golden Globes, being on Letterman, being with his wife in Vogue magazine, because it was necessary to have a central figure to represent the conflict between Ukraine and Russia that was affable and appealing, to rally a population, I mean the American population, behind a very, very expensive campaign that was escalating, and many people said from the beginning, one, was provoked by NATO actions, and two, was unwinnable because Russia are a nuclear superpower, and to beat Russia in a war, you have to go beyond Russia's military capacity. And Russia's military capacity is quite high. You have to ban Russia today from the global internet, or at least platforms that are compliant in that kind of way, and you have to simplify a very complex situation. Ukraine, and of course I'm very supportive of Ukrainian people, like I am of all the people of the world, all of us having our own right to live and our own right to freedom, is a politically complex place. People understand that there's been a lot of corruption in Ukrainian politics. I'm not saying that it's worse than, I don't know, Britain or America or whatever, but I'm saying that people used to commonly say, Ukraine's a bit shaky politically, so if you pump a bunch of money into that place, do be careful. It might not be easy to track and understand. Now, you know we make this show over on Rumble. We stream at these times every day. We have guests. We do all sorts of fantastic stuff. It's worth joining us live for the live stream because we respond to our audience there live and make the show according to your wishes. I'll see you over there. Let's get into the celebritification of Volodymyr Zelensky, the simplification of a complex war, and how we're going to extricate ourselves from a very expensive and dangerous geopolitical situation now that it's started.
The strategy of this war this summer, and you reiterated right now, the progress has been slower than desired.
It's a very modern and unusual war where media has been utilised in a very unusual way. Like, you don't normally see leaders on the TV turning up at the Golden Globe, Sean Penn giving an Oscar to a leader. It's not a normal thing, is it? Remember, previous allies of the kind of interest we're talking about do include people like Colonel Gaddafi. He used to be a big ally of Western nations like ours, but you didn't have him turn up at the Oscars. I mean, the closest he got to movies was when he was tragically murdered, and it looked like Weekend at Bernie's.
And recently, one of your top generals said Ukraine has, quote, reached a stalemate. Has the war reached a stalemate?
The world gave us 3 days. Some European countries who really believed in us, they said 1 month.
I'm not questioning the fortitude of Ukrainian people. I know some Ukrainian people. They are really, really hard, tough people. This isn't about that. I think what's happened is that Volodymyr Zelensky's had a kind of a Truman show created around him where he's been told, you're going to win this war, we're going to support you, we're going to give you military aid, 70% of which will end up going to military-industrial complex, and many of the weapons might get lost elsewhere and not even make it to Ukraine. I feel that Volodymyr Zelensky's been a pawn in a much bigger game, to tell you explicitly what I think that game is, to drain the resources of Russia, to try to establish Ukraine as a kind of outpost of American empire, to create a sort of unipolar world where Russia and China get agitated into conflicts that are draining, to benefit the military-industrial complex by having long, drawn-out wars that don't have any realistic aim. I mean, has anyone ever explained to you, right, what'll happen is, we'll do this, then this will happen, then Russia will surrender and the white flags will come out. You know, the people have talked about regime change, but there's no real plan for the point where Russia goes, well, that is enough about that. You know, Russia are hard. They are built in war. The last century's been war for them. It's a different type of mentality. It's not something that's going to be easily resolved. And I think in turning Volodymyr Zelensky into a kind of celebrity leader, which is extraordinary because, of course, he was an actor and comedian previously, he's been inundated with a version of reality that's kind of untenable, almost gaslit into believing this was a war that could be won. But how do you win a war against Russia? What surprises me is what a pundit or an uninformed person might think about going to war with Russia. Like, how are you going to win a war against Russia? They've got nuclear weapons. They've got a long history of winning wars against, like, formidable opponents like Napoleon and Hitler and stuff. How are you going to beat them in a war? Like, that seems to be bearing out. How has it happened? Well, it seems to me because there was was a fictitious narrative created around this conflict from the beginning, a mobilization of the legitimate humanitarian crisis that was happening to Ukrainian people, which ignored the complexities of how the war actually started, NATO's impingement on former Soviet Union territories, the provocation of Vladimir Putin, and the fact that it's a war against an unbeatable opponent.
If there is a question through society of United States about military and about something else, okay, let's co-produce it. It will be win-win. The third one, if you can't give us some financial support, okay, please, give us a credit and we will give you back money after the war.
Well, so this is essentially a pitch for more military aid, a negotiation at the level of the media for more funding, even for it to become a debt rather than a donation. That's extraordinary, actually, and I suppose what Zelensky might be sensing is that the Biden administration are losing their appetite for the ongoing funding of this war, perhaps in favour of other potential conflicts in the Middle East and increasing tensions with China. But it's a very unusual media appearance. Obviously, at the beginning of this war, there was a great deal of goodwill and a lot of badges and stickers and all kinds of fanfare. But now I think people are exhausted and people are beginning to realise that their taxpayer dollars are being spent on a war that can't be won.
And the force, we can buy some ammunition. We will buy. We will defend our jobs. We will have taxes and we will buy. We will buy from American companies. Just allow us. And that's it.
What? This is really weird. When did war become about making deals in such an explicit way? Maybe it's always been like that. Let me know in the comments.
Time is very expensive. That's why we need your support. But you will get more. You will get more. I'm sure. After our win, you will see all these things.
It's actually difficult not to feel a little sympathy for Volodymyr Zelensky, who I feel may have been used in a pawn in a geopolitical game that far expands his understanding of that conflict. I don't know. Let's get into it. Since the Russia-Ukraine war began over 20 months ago, Western media has constructed and dutifully hewn to a series of narratives. Volodymyr Zelensky is a war hero and a resistance leader akin to Winston Churchill. Ukrainians are eager to volunteer for the war effort, while Russians flee conscription. More money and weapons are all the Ukrainians need to retake the territory Russia has annexed. The West's interests lie in helping them achieve that grand victory rather than in pushing for a ceasefire and a negotiated settlement. Facts at odds with these narratives, such as that Ukraine has been taking unsustainable losses in combat, that we don't have enough artillery shells to adequately supply them, that the billions we've been sending to Ukraine are falling prey to corruption, have been dismissed as Putin talking points. The critics who point them out are attacked as Kremlin apologists. I think this is where the role of independent media becomes significant, because now you will hear reports of corruption within Ukraine. You're continually invited to consider the complexity of even the humanitarian support of a nation under attack, that much of the military aid might end up in the wrong hands. If you're around my age, you'll remember that the aid that was sent to Ethiopia during the famine potentially ended up in the hands of warlords. It's a complicated world, and the attempts to simplify it in the interests of propaganda, and by propaganda I mean simplified narratives that advance the interests of the powerful, propagated by the mainstream media in order to dampen down conversation. Now the complexity is beginning to rear its head. You can't beat Russia in this war. There is corruption within Ukraine. There was provocation prior to the advent of this war, and now it seems like popular support is beginning to wane. The complexity can't be ignored, particularly with the kind of reporting that's available now. You can't maintain simple, popular narratives that are meant to drive essentially what seems like a financial deal. All of which is why it was so extraordinary to read last week's cover story in Time magazine. Written by Simon Schuster, who previously wrote the article naming Zelensky's Times Person of the Year at the end of 2022. The piece is ostensibly another hagiography of Zelensky as the heroic figure forced to go it alone as times get tough and Western allies start to abandon abandon him. But rather than shoring up Zelensky's standing in the West, it validates many of the criticisms made by those supposed Putin apologists. Only now, those criticisms are being voiced by Zelensky's own aides and advisors inside the presidential palace. The narrative dam our media has built around the reality in Ukraine is apparently breaking wide open, and the truth is finally spilling out. Ukraine's war aims are unrealistic. Kiev has long maintained that its definition of victory, namely the retaking of all Ukrainian territory, including Crimea, is achievable with Western arms and money. Now, a disastrous summer counteroffensive, which has resulted in horrific Ukrainian casualties while reclaiming negligible amounts of territory, has Zelensky's advisors reconsidering whether those aims are realistic. Yet Zelensky's belief in ultimate victory over Russia has only hardened into a form that worries some of his advisors, according to Schuster, who describes Zelensky's faith as immovable, verging on the messianic. In this context, messianic faith is perhaps ill-advised. What you start to wonder is, would a peace deal that was initially proposed and apparently on the table prior to hostilities advancing to the degree that they have been much more favourable? I suppose if there are people within Zelensky's own government that are starting to talk about changing the aims, that's diplomacy, isn't it? That's negotiation. One of Zelensky's closest aides tells Schuster that he is delusional. We're out of options. We're not winning, but try telling him that. This, of course, runs counter to all the propaganda pumped out by Ukraine and repeated by Western media sources. But increasingly, it's only Zelensky who still believes his own press clippings. And amidst all these military crises, it's certainly worth considering how safe you'll be if things escalate to the point where they affect us all. That's why it's an important time to mention the wellness company. Nearly 90% of pharmaceuticals in the US are produced abroad. In a global crisis, countries could restrict exports and stockpile medications. This, of course, can lead to raising drug prices and empty shelves across America. Statistically, you or a family member will likely need a prescription in the next year, regardless of supply chain issues. The wellness company's medical emergency kit offers you a solution to be prepared without paying thousands for a hospital visit. Their kit contains 8 essential medications, including antibiotics, antivirals, and antiparasitics, including ivermectin. It's like having a pharmacy in your bathroom or wherever you need it. Visit twc.health/brand to get your medical emergency kit. Use the code BRAND for a 10% discount at checkout. All right, let's get back to the conditions that mean that we will need a pharmacy in our kitchen or bathroom or wherever you're going to put it. Staggering casualties have decimated the Ukrainian army. Ukraine has refused to disclose casualty counts throughout the war, dismissing the increasingly credible reports of hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian casualties as Russian propaganda. But another close aide to Zelensky tells Schuster that casualties are so horrific that even if the US and its allies come through with all the weapons that they've pledged, we don't have the men to use them. Schuster reports that in some branches of the military, the shortage of personnel has become even more dire than the deficit in arms and ammunition. According to the article, the average age of a currently serving Ukrainian soldier is 43 and getting older all the time. It appears the youth have already been sacrificed. Whilst in one regard this is a very modern war, with a leader being turned into a celebrity, with propaganda, immersively used social media talking points and campaigns being used to prevent counter-narratives emerging. The idea that you're a Putin apologist if you dare to criticize the agenda of the establishment. It's also a normal war where in the end you run out of people. I mean, the analysis that was offered of Russia's ultimate victory over the Nazis, and I know there's a lot more military complexity than I'm able to offer you, was that in the end, Stalin had more men. Stalin will just keep throwing human beings relentlessly at the front. And that seems to have happened here. So with all the military support in the world, you're running out of human life. Conscription policies are draconian. Another fact dismissed as a Putin talking point is that Ukrainians have had to resort to ever more draconian conscription policies to replenish their military's ranks. Schuster lays out the unpleasant reality. New recruitment is way down. As conscription efforts have intensified across the country, stories are spreading on social media of draft officers pulling men off trains and buses and sending them to the front. Those with means sometimes bribe their way out of service, often by paying for a medical exemption. The corruption became so widespread that Zelensky fired the heads of all the regional draft offices in August. But the move backfired as a lack of leadership brought new recruitment nearly to a halt. Sometimes I feel like you require an initial wave of optimism and positivity to deal with a very difficult situation. But in the end, the inevitability of reality has to be faced. It seems that there's just not enough people, not enough goodwill, not enough military support available, just not enough human beings to sustain an unwinnable war. And eventually that's going to have to be faced. And when that eventually is faced, questions like, was this a futile endeavour from the beginning, will have to be answered. Should the diplomatic opportunities, the Minsk Accords, etc., have been accepted when they were a possibility? What was the point of the interceding years, the expenditure and the loss of human lives? Who really benefited? Morale is collapsing. Even patriots don't want to die serving as cannon fodder for a doomed military strategy. Within the officer ranks, there is growing dissension bordering on mutiny. One close Zelensky aide complained to Schuster that some frontline commanders have begun refusing orders to advance even when they come directly from the office of the president. It's in a very good cover piece that he's done for Time magazine. Normally that's like, make me sound good, will you? Yeah. The conscription's gone out of control. No one's listening to you. He wants to talk to his PR agent. When Schuster asked a senior military officer about those complaints, the officer said that some officers have no choice but to refuse orders that are simply impossible. He told a story about an order in early October to retake the city of Holivka, a strategic outpost in eastern Ukraine that's been under Russian control for almost a decade. The answer came in the form of a question, writes Schuster. With what? With no recruits and no artillery, Zelensky's dreams of driving the Russians from every inch of Ukrainian territory cannot be achieved. He can only fight futilely to the last Ukrainian, and there is a diminishing number of Ukrainians willing to die in the service of that strategy. Corruption is uncontrollable. It's long been a Putin talking point that Ukraine's government was shot through with corruption. And yet Zelensky has been getting an earful about exactly that from its US and NATO allies, who don't want to see their billions of dollars in aid disappear into the pockets of corrupt officials. Zelensky has taken some actions, like the sacking of his Minister of Defense, Oleksiy Reznikov, for corrupt procurement practices. But to really root out corruption, Zelensky will have to fire most of his government. A top presidential advisor admitted as much to Schuster once his audio recorder had been shut off. People are stealing like there is no tomorrow. It sounds like a lot of people within Ukrainian government recognise that this is a doomed endeavour and see it simply as an opportunity for corruption and an opportunity to potentially make personal gain. But when a war is presented in the simplistic terms and the peculiar Hollywood terms that this one was, ignoring nuance, ignoring complexity, the complexity of its origins, the complexity of the opponent, how else was it ever going to end? Sooner or later, reality comes to the surface. Nobody believes in our victory like I do, Zelensky told Time in what became the pull quote for this cover story. He may have to read Schuster's piece to see just how right he is, as he seems surrounded by aides who no longer believe in Ukraine's war strategy or Zelensky's leadership of it. Zelensky no doubt intended the quote as a Churchillian never surrender exhortation to courage and resolve in the face of Ukraine's darkest hour, rather than as an admission of delusional optimism. Yet his dogmatic insistence on total victory and refusal to consider peace negotiations belie a loss of touch with reality that ought to worry both his countrymen and allies. It must be an incredible situation to be in, to have been a popular leader, feted by the global media and establishment, funded in a war against a superior opponent, and then to watch that erode with the kind of inevitability that is underscored, I suppose, by deals with BlackRock after the war. And when you sort of see how Zelensky's talking on Meet the Press or whatever that propagandist piece he was trying to rally on, where he's saying, we can just borrow that, we'll just borrow the money, we'll give you the money back, you'll be able to rebuild Ukraine. It seems like there was an odd collision of the war being presented as a humanitarian effort of plucky Ukraine versus evil Russia. And over time, you can't sustain that reality. It seems that the fact that there is corruption in the Ukrainian government, like there are, I suppose, in most governments, has led to the hemorrhaging of resources. And now he stands as a lone figure trying to fulfill a role he was cast in, a role he was required for by the global establishment that they no longer really need him to play. It looks like this conflict will either become something entrenched that absorbs money in a less dramatic way over future years, in a Julian Assange, we like long wars type way, or it'll quietly be ushered away. But what it's not going to be, I don't imagine, is a resounding and surprising victory victory for Ukraine against the superior military might of Russia. To be sure, Zelensky is not alone in his refusal to face reality. The Biden administration has proposed another $61 billion for Ukraine's war effort without explaining how this will produce a different result than the $100 billion already appropriated. Now, that's been an extraordinary feature of this war, isn't it? Asked on the basis of kind of kindness and support and loyalty and important values to continue to support this war, but no one ever explains, look, all we have to do really is retake this area or win this strategic battle. No one can say that, because I think actually the independent media take, which is, hold on a minute, they're just using this war to siphon money towards the military-industrial complex and drain Russia, knowing ultimately it's an unwinnable war. That's the truth of the matter. Undoubtedly, Zelensky's optimism was fueled by Biden's repeated promises of total support for as long as it takes. Wow, man. He's just been chewed up by the machine, hasn't he, Zelensky? Like a career politician like Joe Biden will just say whatever's necessary when it's necessary to say it, and when it's necessary to say something else like, we're not supporting Ukraine anymore, he'll say that. They're incredible at managing those situations. Just notice that prior to this war, the idea of provoking Russia was just overtly described as unfeasible because it could lead to World War III. And now we find ourselves in this situation, or Saudi Arabia will be a pariah. That's what modern politics is. It's just expedience. It's just say what you need to say when it's necessary to say it. And Zelensky, who's probably an idealist, he probably doesn't understand how the global political game works. Who does? I'm not claiming that I do. He's just been sucked into it. And it's just like he's a convenient component for a while, and he'll be spat out like so many former allies of the establishment when it's convenient to do so. But it's becoming increasingly clear that the US is in no position to deliver on that promise indefinitely. It has too many other global commitments, including to Israel, which compete for limited resources. Remember on 60 Minutes when Biden goes, we're the United States, for Christ's sake, biggest country in the world, best country in history.
We're the United States of America, for God's sake. The most powerful nation in the history, not in the world, in the history of the world.
Well, you know, in the end, reality becomes unignorable. Alone among his team, Zelensky seems not to understand how circumstances have changed. Schuster and Time try their best to portray him as the last stalwart of the Ukrainian cause, but the fact that his own inner circle is the source of the torrent of revelations and complaints suggests that his immovability owes not to Churchillian resolve, but rather to an impervious, bunker mentality. So this Times story, which in a way is the apex of turning Zelensky from a politician into a celebrity, even though he was a celebrity before he was a politician, seems to be revealing what many people long suggested. People like Jeffrey Sachs and other academic analysts said Ukraine can't win a war against Russia. It's unwinnable. What's happening here is opportunistically Zelensky and Ukraine are being exploited, probably to trial weapons so that BlackRock can do deals in some sort of subsequent rebuilding, and he'll be used as a kind of celebrity of the day while it's convenient, and discarded when the war is regarded as unwinnable or no longer useful, or has expired as something to galvanize public opinion or legitimize the use of taxpayer dollars and the funneling of taxpayer dollars towards the military-industrial complex. Zelensky is probably a man with integrity, even though there are a lot of stories that elections are being suspended and that there's a lot of corruption within Ukraine and that his military strategies aren't working. Seems to me that this is what happens when war is simplified, when war is used to galvanize public opinion and to redistribute public resources. In the end, you have to face reality that a war against Russia is a very, very serious proposition. That you can't ignore Russia's counter narratives any more than you can ignore their counter-offensives simply by banning Russia Today from YouTube, because the reality will come out. Russia is a massive country with nuclear arms, a long, powerful, significant military history, with historic ties to Ukraine that they were willing to negotiate a diplomatic solution to, which increasingly seems favourable now that the propaganda is starting to dissipate and global attention is starting to turn to other potentially lethal apocalypse-inducing wars. And Zelensky alone on the cover of Time magazine is left pleading for more time that eventually will run out. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the chat. See you in a second.
No, here's the fucking news.
Cry for Freedom says Zed's offshore bank account suggests he knew what's going to happen. 55 fight for right. If Zed didn't know how the war machine works, he surely does now. Moira Laz, can't believe this is still happening unless we forget poppies don't work plainly. Fleabug 2009. The simplest answer is sometimes the only answer. Seems like he just doesn't want to admit loss and is wasting resources and lives in a struggle with pride and ego. Lady Fry, deliberate plea of mercy that might appeal to taxpayers to continue to support instead of protest the war. Then just a lot of people basically asking to see nipples. I mean, there. Take a good look at that because it's the last you're going to see of that guy. Enjoy it, all right? What I've been through. Yeah, I've got it. There's the other one. Oh, 21,000 of you. All I'm trying to do is elevate you guys to a new layer of consciousness to bring about a global revolutionary movement, decentralized, unified, and what do you want? The nipples of a male. Where is Alex, says Sammy? You got to, the Alex show will be on Rumble next week, but if you're a member of Locals, you can watch it probably tomorrow. We'll be putting it together pretty soon. Espadaro, my recent spiritual awakening is being tested by world events. You better believe it, Espadaro, but your meditation posts have been very helpful. Yeah, we've got to do more meditations. I've not done it for a while. Fluff Husk Puppy, $5. Thanks, guys. We desperately need to audit the Fed and schedule F the government. Trump 2024. Some people want Gareth's nipples. Gareth's at work right now, okay? So, listen, I mentioned about Joe Biden going back to Scranton, which is Scranton is where the office is, right? Let's have a look what it's like when he go back to Scranton.
Scranton, Pennsylvania, outside the childhood home of President Joe Biden. On Election Day in 2020, he came back here, went inside, and wrote a message on one of the walls that simply said, "From this house to the White House." He's up for re-election again in 2024, so we decided to come here to Scranton, his hometown, walk the streets, and ask the people here what they really think about their president.
How do you think this is going to go? Is this going to be positive, yes, or negative, no?
What do you feel about our current president?
He's okay.
He needs to get the hell out of the White House. He's ruined this country. This country's in a hole.
That's amazing. That's in his hometown. I mean, they did say of our Lord, no prophet is appreciated in their hometown. But evidently, Joe Biden is not appreciated in Scranton.
He's pretty much the kind of guy who should be a mayor of Scranton instead of President of the United States.
Mayor of Scranton, yeah. I think that'd be quite nice, all the little stories about Amtrak and, the mayor's here, he's going to tell that story again about that fire and everything. Brilliant. You know, like it wouldn't be so... Russell, are there times you sometimes miss drugs, says Mr. Red Fox? Sort of, a bit. But look, in the end, we have to be clear for new levels of consciousness, mate. Razbender, talking about glory holes. You lot, is it bots when people talk about glory holes? I can never, ever tell.
What would you like to see him do moving forward?
I don't know. I would like to see...
She's really being here. I don't know. What do we do? Has anyone got any fentanyl? Yeah, we're in Scranton. We've all got fentanyl.
See him try again with student debt. I would like to see him...
It's really affected this woman really negatively, hasn't it? Meanwhile, RFK leading among under 45s. Now, a lot of you in the chat, you've got some concerns about RFK. We know him personally, friend of the show. I happen to know he's a beautiful person, but you lot, what is it? Because of the Middle East perspective.
Up until now, we've mostly talked about his role as a possible spoiler. But a stunning new poll shows that he has the potential to be much more than that. And if these numbers hold, he actually has a chance to win the presidency.
Could it happen? Could an outsider win? Is that why the legacy media is being attacked? Is that why the legacy media is attacking independent media in the way that it is? Because there is the potential now for non-state supported candidates to rise to the front. Of course, Trump was the OG in that respect, rising up through Twitter, social media, fake news. Think of all of the narratives and all of the phrases that he coined, man. Fascinating. Hey, listen, so let me know in the chat. Do you think that's why independent media has to be stopped? Because in the end, independent media becomes political. It offers points of view that would otherwise be repressed. I want to see can I just see the Hitler? Wow, that was a Freudian slip. Where's Hillary? Is she button 4? Let's have a look at Hillary.
People would get legitimately elected, and then they would try to do away with elections and do away with opposition and do away with a free...
We already kind of have that anyway. It doesn't matter, does it?
Press. And you could see it in countries where, well, Hitler.
It's the press. Do away with the free press. Oh, do away with what free press?
Was duly elected. That's right. Right? And so all of a sudden, somebody with those tendencies, though dictatorial, authoritarian
Hello, Hillary. Have you seen a mirror lately? I can understand why you might avoid them.
tendencies would be like, oh, okay, we're going to...
Sorry, you shouldn't criticise people on the basis of their appearance. It's beneath us. It's beneath us. I'm just saying that Hillary Clinton is the kind of centralist establishment politician that leads us into limitless wars, that represents the interests of the powerful, uses the language of liberalism, of compassion, only to augur and bring about more oppression, more war, more violence.
Shut this down. We're going to throw these people in jail. And they didn't usually telegraph that. Trump is telling us what he intends to do.
Oh, a lot of people talking about Epstein over there in the chat. That's pretty fascinating. Hey, should we have a look at... do you want to see this thing, man? Like where... like our friend, Dr. John Campbell. You familiar with Dr. John Campbell? He's a brilliant person. Apparently, AstraZeneca is being sued right now in the High Court because, well, I think it causes blood clots. Now, I don't remember them saying that at the beginning of the introduction of these vaccines. No, that it was going to be good for us. It was going to save our grandmothers. My grandmother's still as dead as she was at the beginning of the pandemic. Let's have a look at Dr. John on AstraZeneca.
Is a landmark legal case. Oxford AstraZeneca COVID jab was defective.
Oh, that's a journey, isn't it, that we've gone on right there. Can you imagine that? Do you get all of the things that we've heard? Someone now has received a settlement. Oh, man.
Is the contention. 8th of November 2023, quite a few outlets. Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine has been branded as defective. Claims of efficacy were vastly overstated, and as we'll see...
Vastly overstated. Finally some news. And if you haven't had your sticker mule stickers yet, they're coming soon. I see that chat. Terrifying. Defective. And what is the defect? It's killed somebody.
This is, in fact, the case. You could argue it was very vastly overstated. In other words, it didn't quite have in the vial what it said on the tin, is what this is arguing. Defective. This is the way they're trying to get around the indemnity that the government gave them. But the government's going to...
defective to get around the indemnity. Fascinating. Oh, God help us all. Now, we've been sent some interesting... Oh, what's the end of it?
Probably end up paying for this. It's going to cost you and me a fortune.
Of course we'll end up paying for it. We pay for the development of the vaccine. We pay for the vaccine. Then when the vaccine starts injuring people, we pay for that. Pretty good business model they've got over at Pfizer and Moderna. How did they get there? Extraordinary. So what were some of the clips pitched by the audience? Can I see some of those, please? So Dark Knight. Imagine being on mushrooms and seeing this while driving. Is that not? I thought that was the guy in the bodysuit. I'd love that. To stop you falling asleep. I'd love that. Is my sync still up while that's playing? Yeah, because there's no audio on that. That's amazing. I'd like to see that. That's how it goes in China. And then what's this thing? We've been sent by Samsung.
This is one story you need to see to believe. A surfer wiped out by a breaching whale off the northern beaches. When Jason, the...
Nipple stickers from Sticker Mule. That is a good idea. That's a good idea. We'll get working on that. Let's see what's going on in Australian news.
Breen told his mates they didn't believe him. Then he showed them the video.
Cruising in waters off Mona Vale, Jason's all alone, or so he thought. Wrong place, wrong time.
That's an amazing, weird miracle.
A breaching humpback whale body slammed him. But this surfer's story isn't over. Jason starts getting dragged into the depths. His leash is caught under the whale. It's diving deeper, but Jason wants to resurface. After a few mad moments, the rope snaps. Deep breaths. The 55-year-old takes a moment, then says the first thing that comes to mind.
Just got hit by a whale, and I saw the
Pretty accurate appraisal of the situation. My God, that was sort of magnificent. Wolfhounds227. Russell, got to get on Truth Social. I'll get on it. Why is it illegal to communicate with dolphins, by the way, says Brown Mar 321. Is it? Is it? Because people have been taking advantage, probably.
Head come out. Then I saw the rest of the body come out, and then I saw the whole thing above me. And at about that stage, I've got to be honest, I thought I was in trouble. And it came down and landed straight on me, and then got caught in my leash and dragged me probably about 20 to 30 foot under.
He's somehow uninjured and still smiling.
And I could feel it against my skin the whole time. It was a big calf. If it had barnacles, I would have been ripped to pieces because the whale's body was beside me the whole time.
Nomad's Land in the chat. It's Russia's whale. That's a Russian whale doing that.
This is what's left of the rope that attaches from Jason to his gear.
It's funny that, like, Jason's the news now. Jason, he gets up. This is what he does in the morning. Then that whale thing happened. Yeah, anyone who uses it will be attached. It's not uniquely Jason.
It's designed to never break, but in snapping at just the right time, it saved his life.
Just the irony. North London Chili. China has just invented this. Reminds me of your bit where you talked about Legoland when I saw you in 2022. Be screwed if Legoland got one. Probably talking about Legoland when yeah, Legoland, man. I'm still on a ban. Oh, is it audio on this clip? Audio on this clip? Audio on this clip? I've just clipped slip 7. There's no audio. It's just this. And is my audio up still on clips where there are no audio? Okay. What is happening there? They can just move people's cars. Yeah, that's because I parked my car much too close to Legoland, right up against the Lego, as a matter of fact. All right, so Love in Action says, I got my stickers today. Samsung, I've seen about the wow, we did that already. Here a video. I'm sick to the stomach seeing people snatched off the streets. Fantastic stuff. Also, Specialis Cecilia says, have you seen the redacted video where hundreds of Ukrainian soldiers are giving up and joining the Russians? I'd love to see that. Have we got it? Have we found that? Tomorrow. All right, we'll talk about that tomorrow, guys. Hey, listen, thank you so much for joining us. Become an Awakened Wonder. If you're not, press the red button. Yeah, we're live, Ali Ryan. Yeah, we're live. And yes, your audio is up. Yeah, hey, guys. Listen, become an Awakened Wonder. Support Sticker Mule. I'm sure they'll willingly give you nipple stickers if that's what you're after. If you want to see Alex Jones early, press the red button and get involved in that. It's an amazing conversation. It's not really just about, well, I suppose what frames the chat is the idea that our culture doesn't have a place for sort of yogis and mystics and evangelists. And what a lot of Alex is doing is he's pulling information from a wide variety of places. It's an extraordinary conversation. I'm really interested in it. As well as that, if you become an Awakened Wonder, you get we do Bible readings a couple of times a week. We talk about solutions. There's the chat. Have a look at that. Oh, is that us posting that? Got new members to our Awakened Wonder world are Gordov 66F, Ford Guy 207, Lorenzo 80, Patriot Haley, Red Knob 777, Fiona 01, Carl Stevens, Ridgeview, and Hal Green. Thank you so much for joining us today. What have we got on the show tomorrow? Where are we going? We're going to be talking about the war, man. We're going to have to get into it. So join us for that. And we got war, we got door, and so much more tomorrow. Join the stream. Be here on time. I know I'm always late, but you better make sure that you're here. Trinity 0316, Jesus is King. Yeah, keep it real. See you soon. Stay free. See you tomorrow.
Many switch in, switch on, switch off. Many switch in, switch on, switch off, switch on. Many switch in, switch on, switch off. Many switch in, switch on, switch off.